I've never been afraid of attics. Let me rephrase that. There was a time when I wasn't afraid of attics. Just after college, I rented an older 2-bedroom home that had been built in the 50s. It was in reasonable shape for its age. The previous owners had obviously taken great care of it from the looks of things. Due to the market in the area, the house had sat empty for a month before I came along and asked if renting was a possibility since they were having trouble selling. They jumped at the offer. I moved in and had been living there for around 2 weeks. The place had a minor rodent problem, but nothing I couldn't take care of. I make myself eggs and bacon every morning, and this particular morning I'm going to tell you about was no different. I hopped out of bed, shutting off the alarm, and made my way to the kitchen. My eyes were only half open and my vision was sort of blurry. Just before I made it to the kitchen door, I ran into something solid. I had been looking down, and I know for a fact I don't have anything just sitting in front of the kitchen door, so it startled me pretty badly. I wiped my eyes and could now see the ladder that leads to the attic fully extended, and the ends of the ladder resting on the floor. Goosebumps. Goosebumps all over my body. You know that feeling of just immediate adrenaline and fear rushing through your body? It was that kind of feeling. Someone had either come out of the attic or had made their way up there. Which one, I had no idea. I burned rubber en route to my bedroom to get something to defend myself. I didn't have a gun. All the knives that I own were in the kitchen. I couldn't see all of the kitchen from the doorway, so it would have been foolish to run in to grab a knife if someone was waiting for me around the corner. The only thing I could think of was my hunting bow. My dad and I would go deer hunting with our bows during deer hunting season. It's the only weapon outside of the knives in the kitchen that I had. I pulled it from my closet and made my way room to room. No one in the bathroom. No one in the other bedroom. The only other room besides the attic was the kitchen. I drew my arrow back and entered the kitchen, heart beating so hard I could literally see my chest pounding outward with every beat. I ran in, hoping to have the element of surprise if someone was in there. But there was no one. My eyes immediately turned to the ladder. It was a bad situation, I thought to myself. Going up the ladder would alert anyone up there to my presence and also give them the upper hand, as I would be unable to defend myself while climbing. What if they had a better weapon? A gun. Why am I trying to do this myself? I started thinking internally. Call the police. I ran to my room to get my cell phone, but couldn't find it anywhere. My mind jumped to a million different things and places. Did I leave it in the car? Did I knock it off somewhere in the rush to get my bow? Where the hell is it? I made my way to my bedroom door to scan the bedroom with my eyes. It was then that I noticed something move under the bed. The adrenaline pumping so hard at that point, I thought my head would explode. I made a beeline for the front door and ran to my next door neighbor's house, who was an elderly lady. She seemed frightened by how frantic I was, but I calmed down enough to ask her to please call the police. She immediately honored my request, and within a minute or two, a cop car arrived. I quickly explained the situation and to look under the bed first. The policeman called for another officer, which arrived almost immediately, and they entered my home together. I heard shouting coming from inside, and a few moments later they exited with a grungy-looking man in handcuffs. He had been living in the attic while the house was vacant and remained there for the 2 weeks after I had moved in. He had been armed with a Glock 26, which the police removed from his custody. He wouldn't answer why he had a gun or how he obtained it when the police asked questions before putting him in the car. He was charged with breaking and entering, illegal possession of a firearm, and robbery. That's right, while he was in my bedroom, while I was sleeping, before he crawled under the bed. He emptied my wallet, which had $500 in cash. I went that day and started the process to get my own gun. Number 2. A week ago tonight, I was in my basement attempting to dig out an old VCR so that I could show my daughter some family videos. My mother passed away a little over a year before she was born in a car accident, and I wanted to show her a video of her grandmother's last birthday celebration. After a lot of digging around, I found the VCR. I carried it upstairs, along with a box of old videos. There was a tape in the VCR simply marked 2, which I took out in order to watch the original video, which I wanted to show my daughter. After watching the video of my mother, my daughter and wife went to sleep, but I continued looking through the old tapes and reminiscing about the great times I've had over the years. All the other tapes were marked pretty specifically. Mom's 50th birthday, 4th of July, 1998, New Year, 2000. I was curious as to what 2 was, so I popped it in and watched it. Right when I put it in, my jaw dropped. It was a sex tape of me and my wife that was recorded within the last few months. I know this because I got a tattoo on my arm about 8 months ago, and it was clearly visible in the tape. The thing is, I have never in my life recorded a sex tape. I turned it off. I was terrified. I had no idea what to do. After thinking it through, I turned it back on and noticed it was filmed from the corner of our room. I quietly crept into my room where my wife was sleeping and walked to the corner where it was filmed. Barely even visible, there was a hole right in the corner next to the ceiling, meaning it had been filmed from the attic. We never used the attic. I was only in there maybe once or twice shortly after we bought the house. I walked over to my dresser and took out my gun and grabbed a flashlight as well. The entrance was from the garage, so I went out, opened the small wooden latch, and pulled the ladder down. My heart was beating out of my chest, sweat pouring down my face. I had no idea who would be up there. I figured I had to get it over with, so I ran up as fast as I could and shined my light directly in the corner. No one was there. What I did find was still frightening. There was a small TV set up, recording equipment, stacks of Playboy and Maxim magazines, a lawn chair, and a wire fed down to the corner right above my room. Taped to the wire was a note that simply read, "I'm still watching." Needless to say, I freaked out. I jumped down the ladder, woke up my wife and daughter, and said we had to leave. We went to my brother's house and I called the police. They searched the house and the attic. They told me no fingerprints were found. Everything was clean. But underneath the insulation They found more tapes, a lock of my wife's hair, and various love notes written to her. The police have no leads as to who was in our attic, but they advised us to stay clear of the house until they investigate further. I'm currently still living with my brother, and my wife took off work so she doesn't have to go out, as she's absolutely hysterical about the ordeal. At this point, I have no idea what to do. Number 1. I inherited this house after my grandfather died. Just an old house sitting on its own in a field in the country about 20 minutes from town by car. No neighbors. About 50 yards behind the house is where the tree line marks the entrance to almost 600 acres of woods before coming across civilization again. I had just finished going through a long, tiresome custody battle for my daughter, which eventually ended in joint custody, but with her residing with me most of the time. I thought the house would be perfect for some peace and quiet, and hopefully some relaxation. So my daughter and I moved in over a chilly weekend in November. We spent several peaceful weeks in the old place, enjoying the open countryside around us. We would often sit on the porch swing at night and gaze out at the stars, and just talk about the dreams for the future. Winter was really starting to dig its icy teeth in at that point. The heat had not been working properly and had a strange smell ever since we moved in. I called out the local HVAC company to have a look at the heating in the place to see if they might get it working better. Other than the fact that the heating unit was extremely old, being installed around the time when central heating was just becoming a thing, everything seemed to check out, but there still wasn't much warm air moving through the vents. He informed me he would need to check the air ducts located in the attic, and I of course obliged and led him to the entrance of the attic, handing him a flashlight in case the lighting didn't work up there. He had been up there for around 15 minutes when I heard quite the commotion on the attic ladder. I rushed into the room to see what was wrong, to find him basically running down the ladder and heading toward the door. He refused to stop when I asked him to tell me what was wrong. He abruptly sped off in his truck down the long gravel driveway without saying a word. Literally, the only thing that came to mind at that moment was, "What the hell?" I of course began up the ladder to see what in the world had caused such a reaction. It was still pretty dark as I eyed the entrance on my way up. My assumption the lighting may be out was correct, it looked, so I took out my phone and hit the flashlight app. I finally reached the top and noticed that the flashlight I had given him was still up there and illuminating a small area where he had been working. It looked as though he had cut open one of the ducts to see if something was clogging it. I shined the light from my phone around the pitch black room. There was a beautiful freestanding closet, made out of oak it looked, and across from it, on the wall, was a big metal box of some sort. That was all well and good, but what made him react the way he did? I shined my light where he had been working and slowly moved it over the cut open duct. My eyes met the opening and what was lying just outside of it. It was bones. Not animal bones. These had to be human. They were too large to be the bones of anything small enough to get up into the attic that was an animal. I stumbled and fell backward trying to back up. I felt myself getting sick to my stomach almost immediately. I picked up my phone, which had hit the floor when I fell, and dialed the police. I knew it would be a few minutes before they would arrive, so while I waited, I did some more looking around. I swung open the closet door and once again nearly collapsed from shock. There were 3 bones neatly stood upright and propped against the inside wall of the closet. After that, there was no way in hell I was going to touch the big metal box. I made my way downstairs and waited for the police. They declared the area a crime scene, and I was asked to leave. I ended up staying with my uncle in town for almost 2 weeks until I finally was given a few answers. This is what I was told. In 1971, a car was found broke down and abandoned on a dirt road about a mile from the house. They were never able to locate the people who abandoned the car back then, but were able to trace who it belonged to, and after speaking with family, realized it belonged to a couple who were traveling to look at a cabin in the immediate area to buy. The police believe that the couple broke down, and with no alternative, began walking when they came upon my grandfather's house. They believe he murdered the couple and hid their remains in his attic. The big metal box contained a fully intact, decomposed corpse with severe trauma to the head, and they believe the other bones belonged to the other person traveling. I knew my grandfather had a tumultuous past, but I never would have dreamed dead bodies were included in that. I remained living with my uncle until I could sell the house and eventually bought a small home in town for my daughter and I. I often think about what must have gone on that night for that couple, and how my grandpa could have done such a thing. It sort of gives a whole new meaning to skeletons in the closet. Hey guys, if you liked the video, be sure to hit like and the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. I'm sure some of you are wondering where I've been the past little bit. I went through a pretty rough patch personally, and I want to apologize for my absence. You guys who follow this channel and who are fans, thank you for sticking with me and waiting patiently. I love you guys. It's nice to have such passionate fans, and you guys, you really do mean a great deal to me. That being said, things should be back to normal, and you can expect multiple uploads weekly going forward. If you have any video ideas or stories you want to share, you can email me at drhorrorstories@gmail.com. Or if you would like to just say hey, you can hit me up on Twitter. The link to my Twitter is at the bottom of the screen. Sleep well, everyone.